Well, welcome back, whether you're following us on Zoom or on the homepage and the live stream on Poets and Quants. The CentreCourt MBA Festival gets started in February. Inevitably, of course, we welcome admissions directors from so many of the world's top business schools, but we really wanted to have a focus on alumni voices. And so I'm thrilled when I was looking through the profiles that INSEAD and IMD and Imperial and Esmt Berlin had pulled together for this panel. Real talent, real diversity, and lots of Brazilian voices. Sorry that obrigado is about as far as I can go, but let me give you a sense of the breadth and diversity of our background. We have Chen Chowers, an INSEAD MBA from the class of 2018. Chen is the head of operations at Overstone, lives in the world of art, worked at Christie's, and then did an internship at Deezer during her time at INSEAD. And who says that everybody studied engineering to then go to business school? In Chen's case, she studied history and archaeology. Chen, thank you very much for being with us. André has been keeping us moving through the pandemic. André graduated from the Imperial College Business School back in 2016. He'd been an entrepreneur with FitCat. He'd worked in on the cloud. He'd studied a BBA at the University of São Paulo, then joined Imperial and is now a senior manager at Amazon for the last 4 years. And as I was saying earlier before the panel, André, that's been a lifeline, I think, for many during the last year of the pandemic. Keeping that Brazilian theme, also delighted to welcome Camilla Scaranolo, who is from also from Brazil, studied at Estadual de Campinas. There's the engineer, right? The mechanical engineering that you studied. And part of that has certainly translated into life after IMD. Camilla is from the class of 2019, and she's now a product manager at HAC, based in Geneva, that focuses on water quality. And we also welcome from Berlin, Gabriela Rodrigues. Gabby is a senior consultant at May & Company. She spent 5.5 years working at Falcone in Brazil as a consultant, also another USP grad. That's a great pipeline to the top European business schools, University of São Paulo. So perhaps, Gabby, we can start with you and that journey that you made across the Atlantic to the dynamic entrepreneurial ecosystem of Berlin. Maybe just a fun fact. I've given some of your background, but just a fun fact about yourself.
Oh, that's a tough one. A fun fact about myself. I think I am well. I like Japanese animes, so then maybe this is a fun fact, because then people say that like this ladies from consultancy, I don't know, like it doesn't fit, but I like it a lot. Maybe that's one of fun fact about myself. Yes.
And of course, you're that wonderful panelist that gets the first question and gives everybody else the time to think about something that they're then going to share, right? Camilla, I know we're going to talk about your story, how you discovered IMD. It's a wonderful family story, but give us a fun fact about you two.
Yeah, that was easier. Thank you, Gabby, for taking the hit. But I'm probably the human being on earth with the worst sense of direction. I was able to get completely lost in a desert with a map, a topography map, with a compass, and with a guide. So how I got out of the situation is, I think, a different story there. But
I was going to be sympathetic until you mentioned the guide, because in the desert there are no trees to work out your direction. But well, I'm glad that you found us on. I'm glad that you found us on Zoom for the next hour. Of course, Amazon has made it their business to find all of us, certainly when we're expecting a delivery. André, just a little bit about you.
So about myself, of course. So before my MBA journey, I was basically working consulting as well and fintech industry. So working at IBM when IBM bought PwC, Accenture, Then SunGard and Finastra, who are two of the biggest fintechs now, decided to do my MBA in the UK. And during the MBA journey, launched two startups, so FitCAD and also Salaric. And after graduation, I joined Amazon. And now heading what we call special projects. Ooh. With program management operations here at Amazon. And it's just a fun fact because it's interesting. As you can imagine, nobody can get that in Brazilian. Like I've been trying for years and years now in my MBA with everyone. You can see my fellow Brazilians here, nobody.
Well, you've also probably got yourself the most comfortable chair for the last 11 months that we've all spent working from home. I hope it sees us through to the end of this pandemic. And Ren, there can't have been many archaeologists in Fontainebleau or Singapore.
No, there were not many. There was one who worked in museums of Muslim art, so that was nice. But archaeologists, no, not many.
Right.
And it's not anything like Indiana Jones.
Right. Well, in your own sort of sense of exploration and adventure, the MBA, I mean, was it something that you had in the back of your mind, or there was this sort of moment when you said, hey, maybe business school?
No, so I'd never ever thought about it. And when I decided what to study for undergrad, I was so fixated on either archaeology or art history or history. And people told me, just combine it with something practical. And I was like, no, if I'm not interested in it, I won't be good in it, never. And I did a master's in archaeology, so it was very much towards that direction. But when I started working at Christie's, it was the first big for-profit I'd worked in. So I'd worked in museums, which were not for profits or smaller galleries. But and then it was actually my boss that brought it up and said, have you ever thought of doing an MBA? To which I responded, never in my life. But that did get me thinking about the things that I had enjoyed following, after I'd come to Christie's. And it wasn't just to see and work with the art, which was exceptional, but it was a lot of the things around it. I had never heard of INSEAD before. She was an INSEAD alum. That's how it started. So since it's not a school that has a famous university attached, it's only a business school. If you're not, in the business field, you're not aware of it. So it was really following that conversation that it got me thinking, and it fit in with a lot, as a junction in my life where it fit in with a lot of different things. So, but it was not expected at all.
Right. So why is it that we say, archaeology is going to be fun, fascinating? Oh, business, that's not going to be interesting. I mean, did you find some of the classes unexpectedly interesting at INSEAD?
Well, yes, of course. I think first of all, I was a very different person when I decided, 10 years before I started studying at INSEAD to study archaeology. So things had changed since then. And I still love archaeology and I loved studying it. As a geek of Greek mythology, I was sitting in my, class in the first week and thinking, I can't believe someone's teaching this to me, professionally. But that was, quite a few years ago. And I think what's very interesting about my studies in the MBA was just how practical and influential it was, and the tools it gave me to act, outside of the library or outside of my 5x5 square, in an excavation you manage. So really to be not just to understand things in hindsight, but really to act on them and the influence it had. And it really felt, I remember the first week as if, that scene in The Wizard of Oz where they open the curtain and then they see it's just the way this big wizard, how it actually works and functions. And so I felt like the MBA had sort of revealed that and given me those tools.
It was the big reveal. Now, Gabby, you had studied, I guess, public policy at undergrad, but consulting and certainly consulting is a great feeder. What led you to pursue an MBA, and why did you choose Berlin?
I believe that when I was working, because consultancy gives you a lot of knowledge, and then it brings you a lot of different experiences and different projects, different clients. All the time is really dynamic. But at some point, I was working in consultancy my whole life. And then I decided, I realized that I was applying the same methodology, like the same way of solving problems, the same time all over again in different clients, no matter what was the problem. So then I just wanted to expand this. And so this was one of the reasons I really wanted to expand my knowledge, my business knowledge, and learn other frameworks and other mindsets, and then also go leave my bubble, because I was in this Brazilian consultancy bubble, and then I really wanted to see what's there in the world. So then that's, I think, and it felt right, like by the moment that I was about to become senior consultant. So then, and then I was like, well, maybe let's stop here. And then before I do this big step, let me really check what is in there in the world. So then that was one of the pieces. And also because it was one of my big dreams and one of my biggest life goals to study abroad. I have never studied before outside Brazil. So then I decided, well, I wanted to have this experience before, you know, life gets too complicated. So then let's have this MBA experience. And then Germany felt right, because for some really weird reason that I cannot explain until today. Since I was a kid, I always thought that Germany was this incredible country, and I wanted to come here eventually. So, and then I found the SMT, that the profile suited really well to what I was looking for, and then I came. Yeah.
Yeah, we could swap the M of MBA for, instead of a master's, just sort of mobility, right? Because it does give this fantastic opportunity. See different countries, and of course classmates from all over the world. And Germany, you're right, it's a fantastic place to choose. So now, Camilla, your story involves your husband. You'd had this very successful career at Procter & Gamble, but then one of the two of you says, hey, maybe business school, but it was your husband that went to IMD first, right?
Yes, so that's right. When we came here, actually, he came for his master's, right? He was at that moment in his career that he's like, I want to change everything. We always wanted also to live abroad. He had already lived here in Switzerland back in the day. And for me, I was okay going to the US, Europe, I was fine with that. We decided to come here to Switzerland. I was on maternity leave at the time, so it was a big change, a big family decision as well. So I came with a little piece of human being still, like to go through this adventure with him, and we just ended up staying. And then it became my time to. It was not planned that he was going to do it, and then I was going to do it. It was just. It became my time to do an MBA as well in here.
Wow. So you arrived in Lausanne. Maybe did you send the ultrasound in your application, and then you actually, the two of you were based there, and so you had a young baby during an intensive MBA experience. How did that work out?
So I had it was I think it's already an interesting challenge to have a little one when you're changing everything in your life. We had on top of that, we had a very different story, because my son had a very rare disease, and he had a very rare form of that rare disease. And we went, so that year I was most of the time on the hospital, really like on the hospital with him. It ended up in September, 2 days before his birthday, he ended up having a liver transplant. Everything went really well. But it was a very intense year in all aspects, right? We were alone here, and all that happening. So my husband was always like my secure base, and I still don't know how he managed to do the program. And we're going through all this on the background. But also, I can tell you that also the school was really supportive when he had to say, hey, I need to drop out, like I need to be this week in here. If you tell me I cannot graduate for that, that's fine, but I need to do that, right? And then the dean came to him and said, look, if I have to go there and teach you myself, I will. So it was a really amazing also support that we had from the school for that. But yeah, it was kind of a lot going on at the same time there.
Well, it's wonderful that, you know, with a rare condition that and the transplant has been so successful. We talked in one of the admissions panels earlier. One of the admissions directors was talking about grit and determination, and I'm sure you know what you went through, and all of those leadership classes at IMD. Now you can use them with childcare, right? It's like being a manager all over again. André, I guess it was a conversation that you had with your partner. When you thought about going to business school. There are worse places to spend a year. You know, you've got what, the V&A Museum, the Science Museum, Hyde Park, Royal Albert Hall, you know, Imperial's right at the heart of a wonderful part of London. So you both enjoyed the year?
Definitely. So I think was, you know, the criteria she shared with me as a couple, you know, hey, London, and then you can do whatever you want. So it made a lot of sense to choose Imperial. I think, especially with the locate where it's based and in South Kensington, you know, in the middle of London, the heart of London, was definitely a critical factor for me to choose Imperial. Made a lot of sense because it's much easier for you to network with other people. It's much easier for you to actually enjoy a bit of also the London experience on top of the MBA experience. Everybody's super busy, of course, you know, studying a lot, but it's also part of this whole journey. So both of us were really, I would say, able to enjoy London whilst I was also studying the MBA. So definitely, like, I think the right choice.
Right. Now, in terms of, you know, Gabby talked about stepping out of that bubble and you know, embracing change. And in the art world, there aren't that many perhaps that did their MBA. You've had that experience at Christie's. How does it now feed into you know, this head of operations role that you have at Overstone?
Well, I love it. I did an MBA and did not intend to have anything to do with the art world afterwards. So I intended to make a clean break. And actually, as the year went on, I'll give a warning to anyone, you know, who's looking to do an MBA. It's a very disorienting and intensive experience, right? So as it was going on, I actually, you know, felt that I really missed the world I knew, or at least knowing what I was doing. And I did manage to find, you know, a few niches and intersections, and just started speaking to people that had, you know, things to do with that. And so I am head of operations. It's a managerial role, but the company with which I work is really one that kind of connects a few different industries, primarily finance and the art world. So we work in art-backed lending. So I have a very nice position to be in which whenever I speak to someone from the finance world, I am, you know, sort of the representative and knowledgeable person about art. And whenever I speak to people from the art world, which I do it more on the business angle. So it's very different. It's nothing to do with the art research I did, but I do use the knowledge of the market that I gained, and I'm not completely disconnected from some of the people that I used to work with. So that's nice.
Right. And those early collectors in Montmartre that were buying Picasso's work at the turn of the 20th century, little did they know perhaps what they would then be worth later on. How did you decide if it would be, you know, the one-year program at INSEAD would be worth the investment?
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to do an MBA or to do any kind of change is, frankly, ridiculous salaries that are standard in the art sector. So that has a lot to do with cultural issues within the art sector of, you know, of work and who has historically worked there and the type of work you do there, etc. So it's definitely been worth the investment, just because I knew that the types of salaries later would be completely different, right? There are some industries where the jump might be small. But definitely one of the things I thought about was the one-year program, right? Because it's also the opportunity cost. And I think I know that, you know, some people come from a consulting background and then it's, you know, swifter promotions, or maybe branch out to other industries in a slightly more senior role than it would have taken them a few more years. But in essence, a lot of the skills are things that they have in some kind of level, right? Or familiarity with the field. For me, it was completely new. So I was one of those, I genuinely learned how to work with an Excel, not as a, you know, big table for the first time, right? The sum function. So starting from those very, very basic levels, but really all of these things were was just new knowledge that I learned a lot beyond the Excel, obviously, right? But yeah, so it was completely new fields of knowledge. It was completely different industries that were open to me later. And for me, one of the reasons was it was 1 year, right? Which makes a very, very
well,
big
in fact, all four of you as panelists went to some of the world's top 1 year programs. Gabby, did that sort of then create the pressure of, you know, I just have 12 months to learn everything, you know, to network, I'll have these classmates, plus I'm, you know, as I explore new career opportunities. It must be a very intensive 12 months in Berlin.
Yes, it was. And Berlin is very distracting, I must say. You want to do a lot of, well, not now because we're all in the same kind of annoying situation, but Berlin is very, very interesting city, especially during the summer. We want to do like everything beyond the MBA, so then you want to enjoy your social life. But it has been, yeah, definitely very, very, very intense because there is a lot to do. Like, so then I was just reflecting a little bit on my MBA, and then basically what I like to say to people is just that you cannot do everything because it's so much, and there's a lot to learn, and there's a lot to cover. And if you want to read every single article, you're going to maybe miss the opportunity to really be with the people and really learn from experiencing the different cultures, different nationalities, different backgrounds. So I've kind of learned a lot how to prioritize. So then I'm not going to master and accept the fact that I'm not going to master all the topics and all the single frameworks and mindsets. But then what are the pieces that I really want to learn and grasp from here that I'm going to focus. And then also balancing out with meeting people, because it's really incredible network that you built afterwards that you can count on them, really. Like, we still talk with the group talking until today, and then some of them you're really close and become your friends. Some of them are actually valuable pieces in your network that you can always recur to in the future and in your professional life as well. So yeah, I that's very intense experience, definitely.
That sense of prioritizing, Camilla, you know, whether there's orchestrating winning performance. I mean, all of these courses that you can be taking, lots of different clubs and activities. So, you know, what is your advice in terms of getting the most out of that intensive 1 year at IMD?
Oh, my advice to get the most out of it. So the one thing you need to get in your mind, I think, is you take as much as you give on your in this type of environment, right? So it's really, what is that you want to get out of the MBA? As Gabby said, sometimes you're not going to be able, and you're just not going to be able to read through all the material and do everything, right? So where do you want to put your focus? It's really on how can I be better living. That was my approach, right? So if I'm going to leave this program, this 1 year, all this investment, how can I make sure that I am living better than how I started? So it's really like, okay, what is that I need to know? Where are my, okay, whatever I was good at that is easier, where do I want to put more focus? So I was not in finance, right? And then that was like, okay, I need to put a little bit more effort in finance than I need to do for operations, right? So you need to kind of choose your battles. I wanted to do a lot of like the really live through the leadership experiences that IMD provides. So I think, so you choose your battles where you want to put your energy and your focus, and really make the maximum out of your time. So don't waste I would say this was my approach, at least, just don't waste lunchtime breaks and things like this, just doing nothing. Really connect with people, go after, your classmates, all the faculty, you're exposed to so much during that year. So you can really take advantage of just that ecosystem in which you're in, right?
It's great that all of you are sharing these sort of insights, because I guess with the 1 year program, you don't have those second year students and the overlap that says, hey, in my first year, I wanted to go to every club, or, to how you might use lunch times or other spare moments of the day. I guess at your schools, what is it that at some of these schools, if you look at sort of 5 to 10 years out of the MBA, that's when so many start their own business or pursue something entrepreneurial. Andre, you actually started 2 businesses during the Imperial MBA. Was that a very deliberate decision? You wanted to use sort of the incubator and the business school environment to test your entrepreneurial skills?
Yes, it was a conscious decision. So I think especially one thing that makes Imperial super special is the link to the broader university. So how could I leverage not only the business school, but also the links that we had with the uni? So, and also I think a safe environment to, try myself in that sort of, entrepreneurial environment. And I think was the ideal place to try that out. And Imperial facilitates that with the enterprise lab. So not only, pretty much, I think similar to all the top unis, like we have super strong faculties around entrepreneurship right now, but also that safe environment plus the broader uni that helped me, succeed in my own startups. And definitely like linking to Camila's point and to Gabi's point on linking, networking with also your fellow colleagues is also important, because these 2 companies are actually launched with my colleagues from my MBA.
Right.
So also that's definitely important.
Right. And then, with that experience, then you got this great offer from Amazon, and maybe there are more entrepreneurial ventures in the future.
Yes. So now at Amazon, actually, entrepreneur. I cannot say much what I do, actually, confidential, but so it's basically working as an entrepreneur within Amazon. That's
Right.
my role right now.
Okay. Well, we'll I don't think anyone from the Wall Street Journal is listening into
Hopefully.
Plans, but Chen, you talked about a mastery now of Excel spreadsheets. They hold no secrets for you, but being able to talk business to the artists and art to the finance folks. As you think about all of the skills that you acquired, lots of business skills among them, are there also a more personal sense of this journey and what you've learned about yourself?
Definitely. I think, and I'm gonna bet that everyone here who went through at least a 1-year program will agree. It's such a complete, overwhelming and warping experience. I mean, you encounter so many people that are so impressive and so diverse, and it's really it's very, very humbling. But it really does put your own set of skills and thoughts and ideas into a different kind of global perspective. And it really, I think, I was very skeptic of the terms, diversity and global, and it just sounded like some kind of slogans, because those are, the words that everyone is using right now. But I think that year really kind of shifted, not as a token, not as, anything, but really gave me the opportunity to see completely different, whether it be in the sense of markets or people or culture, really try to understand and approach these, these differences in a way that, I don't know, it wasn't, I can't say I'm coming out coherent now, but it's not as remote, it's much more approachable, and you're really able to see yourself inside this kind of globalized community, I think. And I think that's super important. And of course, how to, someone mentioned here before, prioritizing. It is, sleep, people, academics, job hunting. There's not enough time for any of these things, right? So it's really learning how to work under pressure and prioritizing. And I think one last thing, and it's really important, and I think this year of COVID has perhaps made it even more. It's this diversity should, and I hope in a lot of people, breed a kind of patience and kindness towards these differences, right? At the beginning, there's perhaps a lot of misunderstandings that are purely cultural, and it really takes time to understand it. And yeah, I think just kindness and patience to these, differences, and it really does help later on when you're more aware of it, yeah. I think.
The world certainly needs more kindness and more patience. You're absolutely right. Hen sort of alluded to this idea of, how do I fit in? You have all these very talented, smart classmates. Gabby, we often hear this idea of sort of an imposter syndrome of, will I be good enough? Is that something that entered your mind as you started the program, and how, if so, how did you deal with that?
Yes, that's so. I feel that you were in my mind, Matt, because I was exactly thinking about this when Hen was sharing her personal learnings, and I think that for me, one personal thing was to see that, okay, I can match those highly successful and highly skilled folks. Like I was when I joined when you join the MBA and you see all those profiles, and then you see all those folks that you don't yet know them, you just know their profiles. You get really intimidated. Well, at least I got super intimidated. I'm like, do I have enough here to be here? Am I smart enough, or do I have the right skills, or do I have enough experience to share? This actually impacted negatively for myself for a long time in the MBA. That this is something that I would do completely different. That I hold myself a lot, and not only because of I was intimidated by those folks, but also because having English as a second language, and it was my first time studying abroad, I was super scared about saying something and looking stupid, and then I didn't speak up a lot. So then it was really funny because my experience in my groups was really different than the experience that I had in classroom. So then in classroom I was really shy, and then people who know me know that I am this extrovert, like this crazy person that likes to talk. And then people were like, why you don't talk in class? And then I was feeling this and then very strongly. And then in the groups, and then I could see like, no, actually I can handle this. And then actually sometimes I can even be better, exceed the expectations that is in the room. So then this confidence we're building up slowly, maybe slower than I wish. But definitely this is an advice that I would give for everyone. Like, don't get intimidated. You actually just have to learn from these folks. You don't have to match them at all. Like you have to observe, and if you make mistakes, it's all fine. Move on, and then you learn from your mistakes, and people are not going to laugh and be mean to you, because you're all in the same kind of situation that is far from home. And then most of, at least in the SMT, most of us English was a second language. And then we were always facing these challenges together. So it got in the way of me in the MBA, and it didn't have to, because then it was in my head.
Ken was saying these sort of buzzwords about being global, but it actually, when you meet classmates from all over the world, nobody was expecting an introverted Brazilian, right? And now IMD, much like the other schools, but the IMD takes extraordinary care with the whole application process. They organize, well, pre-pandemic, they'd have events they'd hold in Lausanne and in Singapore to meet all of the applicants. So I guess my question to Camilla, after this year with your classmates, what quality or characteristic best describes such a diverse and talented group?
I really have to. It's kind of echoing what they said already, but it's the word that pops in my mind is extraordinary. When you really look at these people, they're like really successful in their professional careers, but then they have all these interesting backgrounds, personal backgrounds, or just their interests and what they're good at. Like you have Olympic medalists, you have like all sorts of really amazing people there, and then you get them all together and you realize they're just people. They're really approachable, and they have fears and they have hopes just like yours. It's really extraordinary.
Yeah, to identify with that. Andre, you mentioned the relationship that the business school has with Imperial College, which life sciences, medicine, but the business school attracts students from all walks of life, fintech and entrepreneurship and others. How would you describe your classmates?
I think extraordinary, special, or like similar in a similar way to Camila. Like, I think it's interesting when you start your MBA journey how a bit of imposter syndrome, really, like you see their background, to see like the awesome things they did in their careers, and you it's easy for you to think that you don't match them in a way, so and it's so diverse, it's so different out of your own life, like your own life pre-MBA, what they did, that makes you wonder, like, hey, should I be here? Do I have the right to be here? Should I go home? So I think that's something that is super, super humbling, to Hen's point on. You learn a lot about yourself, you learn a lot about your fears, and I think like, and that they helped me all the way through the journey, my not only the faculty but also my friends from the MBA, all the way through. So if I got here, if I got a job after an MBA, if I completed successfully my MBA, sort of, surviving the whole journey, I think definitely like the colleagues, my friends, helped all the way through.
Right. The dean at INSEAD, Chen, loves to say, everybody at INSEAD is a minority, and with 92 nationalities across a September and January class starts, certainly demographically that's true. So, that's 1,020 students over the course of a year. How do you connect with people? Because again, that could be overwhelming, thinking there are all of these people, there are my cohorts, but what role do the clubs and National Week and all these different activities play to make those connections?
So it is overwhelming, right? Entirely, and you're surrounded, especially the first week I lost my voice, and I wasn't the only one, because everyone's constantly talking to everyone, and you have no framework to differentiate, so many people around you. So first of all, it's 500 split into, 2 promotions during the year. So it's slightly narrower. And then, yeah, you do have these clubs, which you kind of get to know a bit later. And you have the national weeks, which are at some point in the year, different nationalities, I'll explain to other people, bid to have their a kind of week for their culture. So it's not really nationality. You actually get very cross-border thing. So a Desi week, which is both Pakistani and Indian, which in the real world is actually not as easy. But and then throughout the week there are activities that the next promotion organizes typically, and it's a great way to get to know that culture. But really, all of these different activities, all of these different clubs, they're just frameworks that make it easier, to get to know the people, instead of just looking at 500 people and not knowing who to talk to. But I think my best advice to everyone is to, and I'm sure this is the same for all the schools, just stay curious, because this year is very overwhelming, and it's very easy to, once you gather a pretty random group of people around you, because you happen to stand next to each other at a few consecutive events, it's very easy to feel at home, and it's natural, and they become your closer friends. But really, throughout the year, even when it was 2 weeks before the end, even when it was graduation trip and I was randomly on the plane, sitting next to someone else, everyone you talk to is so interesting and has such really a different background that you can learn from. And when people say networking, it sounds so professional, but really these are people that I feel comfortable reaching out to, because we've really made a connection, and and people still reach out to me very randomly just to ask. I'm the random art person, obviously, for my promotion, but it's a really great way to keep in touch with people. And I think that's one of the most amazing experiences. This kind of goes back to a question you asked before, what do you take on with you later? So it's not exactly skills, but that idea that wherever you are in the world, you have, these interesting, inspiring, curious people that that are welcoming to you. So I would say always be curious for everyone around you, basically.
Presumably that curiosity, Gabby, can also extend to the city. In your case, Berlin, you'd had this idea that, Germany, great country, and I'd love to travel and spend time there. And then you've got the backdrop of, whether it's all of those museums in the heart of the city, it's the political capital, so much going on, music scenes. How does that then, create a backdrop for time outside of the MBA classroom?
Yeah, I think that that's why it was so distracting, because we wanted to leave the classroom to enjoy the city a lot of the times. So then there is a lot of the nightlife here is also super, super strong. For me personally, it was not something that I enjoyed as much as I could, because you're working with your budget that you brought from, especially I'm looking for André and Camila, that you guys know the difficulty that it is from bringing your Brazilian money, and then it shrinks considerably when it's euros. So then I cannot like fully enjoy this because I had a really strict budget to follow. But overall, we were always trying, I think, to get to know the city and to explore the city, but also with the challenges of not speaking German. So that's we are only a few. There was, I think, that just one German in our whole class. So then we were kind of having these adventures together and going to the restaurants and going to the museums and not understanding fully what was happening here. But yes, it's definitely a very alive city. So then there's especially not during winter times was quite challenging, I must say, especially as a Brazilian. That was particularly challenging. The short days, 3 o'clock was already dark. This took a while to get used to. But then during spring and summertime, you can definitely enjoy this while going. It is incredible that you can go to school and then have class, and then after class you can easily go to the Spree, to the river, and then just enjoy a beer in there, and there's already you're living like a Berliner. So right. It was very interesting.
Now you're a very multilingual panel. Maybe Gabby, just that point in terms of you're studying in Germany. How important would German then be in terms of post-MBA career opportunities?
Yes, that's a very good point, because you have to, when coming to Germany, overall, Germany is very, very important if you want to stay in Germany. Berlin is kind of one of the pieces in Germany that is still safe to be speaking only English. I don't speak German yet. Almost there. No, not almost there, but I'm trying. But Berlin, I have my career in English, fully in English. It's possible. Maybe if I had German, I would be in a different position in terms of as a role, like not in my company, but maybe in other companies, I would be considered. Definitely, there was less opportunities in terms of because of the language piece. Definitely. There is also some other cities in Germany, but overall, if you're really considering seriously to be in Germany, with German, your life will be much easier. You can do it in English, but you will struggle a little bit more, let's say.
Right. Camilla, in terms of Switzerland is trilingual. You've built the next stages of your career just down the road from Lausanne in Geneva, which is home to any number of world organizations and Fortune 500 companies. As you think about both the opportunities that you had, but also the rest of your classmates, I mean, IMD is offering you the world, right, in terms of the career opportunities that you can follow.
Yes, so I think this is the interesting piece of being here, right? It's a very, so it is interesting how you see business being conducted here overall, right? You have like all this myth of neutrality, or not myth, you have the neutrality of the country. It is already a very closed environment in terms of business here, as Gabi was saying. Language, here we speak many different languages depending on where you are in Switzerland. So you have 4 official languages, and business locally, they are conducted in those official languages. But then you understand what it is, how international this country is as well. So then when you are talking about your next moves, then here you have all sorts of top management, top executives of so many companies that are either based here or are constantly coming here for any sort of type of business or education, right? So you have this access to the world. We have in IMD the world competitiveness center, and and you have access directly to the director of the program at Arturo Rodrigues, and he is like talking to you, like explaining the process and talking to you about all this that he's seeing in the world. So you do have this international exposure and a very intense level, I would say. I would say that Switzerland really fosters that, and that's what helps you get to whichever that is that you want in the world, because you're always going to find a link, a connection, people to talk to make sure that that's what you want, that's where you want to get. So I think that's the environment that we provide here.
And as you think back to the application that you submitted to the school, I mean, did it mention water quality? I mean, this is the thing, right? You go in with ideas, but just open the curiosity that Chen described. And now here you are working at HAK, focusing on water.
I knew one thing for sure, which was I wanted to have a positive impact in the world with my skills. So that was my desired goal. No matter what I do, I wanted to. So of course, I wanted to be on the general management path, and I am on the general management development program for the Danaher Corporation, that is the umbrella company for HAK. But the one thing I know for sure is that I'm not going to compromise. I want to have a positive impact in the world. And Danaher has that vision as a corporation, and HAK, when I saw I can take care of water quality in the world, I was like, that's it. That's right for me. That works.
Right, and we go back to Chen saying, I want to study things that I'm passionate about. If you get to do a job and something that really has that positive impact, it's what a fantastic outcome. André, just one question maybe that's specific to the UK. Now that Brexit has become this reality, you've built a very successful career with Amazon. Had your intention been to stay in the UK after the Imperial MBA?
So it was my intention to stay here, even with the whole Brexit situation. So actually, Brexit happened in my MBA
right
year. So I was in right in the middle. I was my, part of the MBA experience. But it still was to stay in the UK. So if you think that, most of the financial decisions, big decisions in Europe comes from UK, still it made a lot of sense to stay here. So yeah, I think it was I thought briefly about, potentially Germany was actually one of the possibilities. Gabi, it's really true. But in the end, I think made sense to stay here in the UK.
Right. And what next for you now, Chen? As you think maybe 5 years down the road, and we don't know if Banksy is in the INSEAD alumni network. We don't know which network Banksy is involved in. Where would you like to see yourself 5 years from now?
Well, that's my answer again is a bit convoluted. I'm very excited right now that I really get to take part in a niche industry that's developing as we speak. I mean, this sort of subfield of art backblending, incorporation of data into art, which has been going, but very, very slowly. And I think specifically this year is really a turning point for the industry as well, for a lot of different reasons. So I'm not entirely sure what the function is going to be, but I am very excited to grow together with this industry in a way. And what I think also INSEAD has given me, and I mean, it's again, such an international school and with the different campuses, etc. And that network is that I really do see myself, it's like this big adventure. I can see myself developing into these, different locations in different areas, and even immediately post the school, then there were, would it be London? Would it be Paris? I didn't really consider Asia because I didn't love Singapore, but I think for everyone, you have your list of priorities. And I think for me, I love the industry and the roles and opportunities that are with this industry. So I can see myself going to different geographies. I can see myself switching functions in this niche, but yeah, I don't know, growing along with the industry.
There was a chart either at the MoMA or the Whitney a few years ago that BlackRock had produced, and it overlapped the NASDAQ with the art market, and they were correlated. So you're in a
pretty good returns. No, but right. yeah, so anyway, art back lending specifically is sort of a hedge to the rest of the art market, right? Because it's not selling it, it's capitalizing on it now. So when you have years that are so volatile in the financial markets, like this year, incidentally,
Yeah.
and everyone just needs liquidity, right? So it just, I think this year specifically really shifted perceptions. Sorry, this isn't the topic of the conversations, but in the treatment of art as an asset, which is really what we're doing because it has such unique properties. So yeah, so it's just a very exciting place to be in for me at the moment. And I think maybe I'll just tie this, sorry, back to the MBA. And for all of the people that are intimidated, whether when they're applying or whether they're in the program from these really, really impressive other people with all of these different diverse backgrounds, I just want to say that one of the things that was really, I'm very happy, was drilled into us during the MBA, and I really think that's the way to go with your application as well, is that, you know, don't try to compete against anyone else because they're super, you know, driven and talented and smart at whatever it is they do. But every kind of deviation you've made along the way, and when I started studying archaeology, never in my life thought I would do an MBA, right? So every kind of deviation you've made has really contributed to your unique value and perspective, which there will be a niche that would be indispensable for, you know. And Andre mentioned, you know, he did entrepreneurship before and he ended up working in Amazon, but as an entrepreneur. So he probably wouldn't have gotten that job had he not, you know, been interested in entrepreneurship before. So what I'm saying is really go with your passion and background and expertise, and that specific combination is going to be valuable. You're not competing against other people, but just honing who you are, I think.
Yeah, no, that's really salient advice. So Gabriela, of course, this question, or rather your answer, will be on public record. But as you imagine yourself 5 years from now, also from what Chen just said, you know, you've made this investment in yourself. You embrace that change, and here you are. So where might you be 5 years from now? And we can play this answer back to you in 2026.
Yeah. So hopefully millionaire in the beach, relaxing. So no, I mean, I'm really purpose-driven person actually. So then I just hope that 5 years from now, I'm super curious to see future Gabriela watching this again, by the way. Right now I am shifting in my career. I am shifting inside the company that I am. So then I'm moving towards a more curriculum design and co-facilitation, and really focus on the learning and development world. And then I just hope that I can successfully shift my career for this, and hopefully with a team, leading a team. I don't mind specifically about the role, but I also don't know, actually, not that I don't mind, but I don't know which role specifically, but at least being a reference point for the topic that I want to focus now, that is helping organizations to find their purpose and find their mission, and really align this, be purpose-driven organization. So that's what I would like to be working on 5 years from now.
And drawing on Hen, also then sort of giving advice as you apply, you know, put aside all of those other applicants and, you know, focus on your story. What would your one piece of advice be to anybody applying to Esmt or any of the top business schools?
Yeah, what usually I say to people when they come to me and are asking about MBA, what I always say to the applicants is that remember that you are as well choosing the school. So then, because when we are applying, we're super focused about, oh, I want them to love me and I want them to love my profile and to be accepted in this top school. Just remember that you are the one who has also the choice in your hand, and then you should be able to understand if you really are a true fit for the school. So then, for example, one of the reasons that I went to Esmt is that it's a very collaborative and small, close community, and that spoken to me really closely. So then that's, I wanted to be a very close experience, very close community. And yeah, but then this is something that I see my friends losing sight. Usually they want so badly to be accepted that they forget that the other way around is true. So then just make sure that you are understanding the school profile, and then you're a nice fit in both ways.
Right. Well, you found a sense of purpose, Camilla. I would, if you don't mind, take this opportunity you know, as we look at gender balance in the MBA classroom and how that is, you know, slowly trending upwards. You know, IMD average age 30, 31. They have lots of young women in their mid 20s, 26, 27. You applied, you know, while pregnant. So perhaps just advice to expectant mothers, future mothers, just for the experience itself. And you know, you nothing stopped you, right? You just went ahead and did all of this. Do you have any advice for perhaps women and how this fits with other aspects of their life?
The advice I have first is believe that you can, and that it's gonna pay out in the end. So a lot of us, I think and it's still the reality, right? We fight so hard in our careers to get where we got before the MBA, that sometimes we say, hey, am I gonna like leave this certainty for something that I don't know, for the unknown, you know? And I had to fight so hard to get here already. Is it gonna make sense? Is it gonna be better? So first is try to fight your fears with information, right? So try to reach out to people who did it, who was on that path and had to go through those same doubts. And this is whichever situation you are as a woman or as a minority, you might have lived through that and then beyond that moment, but what if? And so research, make sure that you make the right choice in terms of the school, and then go for it, you know, and then put your system in place to make sure that that works for you. So for example, if you're gonna have a kid with you in that country, how is it gonna be, who is gonna take care when you're not there? How, like, if something fails, do you have a family member that can quickly come? Just think about your system around you. And that is the same if your kid is staying behind, or if you're bringing a husband, or if you have a dog, whatever the situation is, right? That just put your system in place, think a little, try to reach out to people who had to go through that moment, and believe in yourself that you can do, and that long term you're better off.
Well, we've had, you know, self-belief. You've talked about kindness towards others in the world, finding your voice. So Andre, we managed to get through 58 minutes of a 60-minute panel, and you still haven't revealed the secret project at Amazon. So don't blow it now. But if you did have any advice, whether for an entrepreneur or anybody that's considering business school, what would it be?
I think really find, it's sort of aligned to what Camila mentioned about find the right school for you, because all these schools, like, you know, I think the baseline is they're all top schools. You know, everybody that is here in this panel, like everybody came from like super strong business school. So what makes that school good for you as well? So, you know, what are the characteristics that you're looking for? So I think that's super important. So talking to alumni, reaching out to faculties or to people specifically from uni will help you deciding better which business school you want to join. You know, what is unique about them that makes you, you know, that the right choice for you.
And alumni, you know, so often it's about people, and you know, alumni just getting a sense of the community that you'll be joining. So I have to say, all four of you, you're extraordinary ambassadors for your schools. It was a wonderful discussion. We covered so much, and I can only imagine that our viewers, you know, they've got a better sense of the schools, a better sense of their future classmates. So Gabby, Andre, Chen, Camilla, thank you so much for taking the time to join us at CentreCourt. And I'm sure people will want to reach out, you know, share their backgrounds and experiences, because you've certainly inspired them. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Matt.
Thank you, guys.
For the invite. Yeah.